media outlet. Sorry, I'm juggling multiple devices. This is a news media outlet. It's progressive, and we report on a lot of various things. So today we're going to be reporting on the whole Iran stuff that's going on, and I'm going to be talking to you about like stocks and working class issues. Like I'm going to connect the stuff going on with Iran and working class issue and race issue. And we're also going to play a little bit of a game about whether or not your rep is corporate. There's two different things going on. So there's an app called All Real Radio, and we're live streaming through the app right now, allrealradio.com. But we're also live streaming on YouTube, youtube.com/statusquo. So if you want to see some of the visual stuff, you get on youtube.com. If you just want to listen to me speak, you could just go to allrealradio.com. So the very first issue that I need to address is my quality of sound. Now, I know on the All Real Radio app, it probably sounds okay. But as far as the YouTube video, I know the sound on there is not okay. So I'm going to check on the YouTube video because I've been having so many issues with it lately, and I just want to make sure it's good. So I'm listening to the YouTube on my phone, and it looks like everything's good. Like, I think I finally got it. There's like no hissing noises. There's no high frequency. It just seems to be good. Ah! It feels really good to finally get this nailed down, guys. Like, not going to lie. All right, well, so with that said, I'm going to ignore the YouTube, and we're going to dive into reporting. So, hold on. I'm just really excited that the sound on YouTube is working, and it looks like the sound on All Real Radio is working as well. Hopefully, I'm right about that, but it looks good. Okay, so we're going to dive into this now that I know the sound is good on both applications. All right, so as far as you guys know, I mean, as you guys have seen, we we came out of our haze of 2020 with quite a bit of scare with Trump and his new World War III crap. Really, it's crap. We woke up to that truly disastrous propaganda where, you know, and like, I mean, it was disastrous propaganda to those of us who are familiar with the propaganda, but for those of us who are not as familiar with the propaganda, it definitely came as a shock. Like, people aren't understanding why. They're thinking, okay, yeah, we really do have this bad guy, and it's been really hard to watch as far as the propaganda unfolding, as far as people coming into it. There's been a lot of protests already. As I'm sure you guys have already seen, Jordan went live earlier with protests in New York. There's some protests going on in Houston. There's going to be a major protest tomorrow, which I'll go into. And I'm also going to go into, like, you know, if you're not in New York or if you're not in Houston, where are your protests? I don't know where, but I will give you the tools to try to help you find where your protests are. I can say orange turd. It's okay. Thanks for the permission. So I'm going to start off with the the stocks. So I'm sure like it's not a surprise that as soon as all of this Iraq war stuff started, I mean Iran, not Iraq. It's funny how like, history is repeating itself so closely that it feels like it's still Iraq, but it's not. It's Iran. We're on to a different bad guy. I put bad guy in quotes because you know how that is. So we're going to take a moment to look at the stocks of the war profiteers after the news broke. So I'm going to switch you over to the browser. For those of you listening on All Real Radio, I'll just talk through what these stocks look like. And if you want to see them, you can go to youtube.com/status quo. So we're going to start with Lockheed Martin. That's obviously one of the most well-known ones. So here we are. Let's look at the 1 month. Here we are through December. The stocks are pretty low. And then boom, January 2nd, January 3rd, it went up. So it was down at $389 per stock, and then it jumped up to $413. Here's this 5-day. Let's look at this 6-day mark. So even at the 6 months, so in this chart, we're looking at September, October, November from last year all the way through January. And when you look at Lockheed Martin stocks throughout the latter half of last year, they're all under 400. And then as soon as January hit, as soon as the news hit, there's a very, very obvious spike. And here's within like the last 24 hours, but then there's that spike again. So we're going to move over to Boeing. First thing I'm going to do is show you guys all of the stocks, and then we're going to break down what it means. And we're going to look at the war profiteer stocks, and then we're going to look at the oil profiteer stocks. Two different aspects of of our corporation issues going on. So next up is Boeing. Here's their 5-day. So Boeing has a lot more in their business portfolio. It's not just war stuff. So over here, we see that there was some stuff like increase in their stocks in the latter half of last year, and then it dipped down, and then it dipped down, and then within the last 5 days, it has gone up again. So because Boeing has a lot more in their business portfolio, besides missiles and rockets, they have airplanes, telecommunications, equipment, satellites. There isn't a dramatic difference like Lockheed Martin has. See, but they're still profiteering, right? Like they're still part of this. Next up is BAE Systems. So what's interesting about this one that I wanted to, I never switched you guys to the browser. Sorry. What's interesting about BAE Systems is that, it's a British multinational defense, security, and aerospace company. So this isn't an American company. This is British company. But the reason why I wanted to bring this one up is to show you global capitalism. How like it's not just the United States warmongering capitalists benefiting off of this. It's also worldwide. So I'm going to switch you back over to the browser. So now I'm sure it's not BAE. It smells like BAE, but BAE Systems, not BAE Systems. But British multinational defense, security, and aerospace company. So here we see within the last 6 months and the later half of last year, in 2019's last quarter, they were doing okay, and then it went up, and then like over here, it spikes. So we can see in the last 5 days, how there was a spike in on December 31st, but then it just kept going up, and then there was more of a spike in January. So this is $30 for US. Oh, excuse me. But for British, that's a lot more, right? When you consider like the conversion from US to, are they still using euro? I don't even know what they're using anymore. Britain hasn't made up their mind. But I'm sure they will soon, given that they've, voted to the right this past election. But anyway, I'm not going to go into British politics, but I did want to show you how it's not just US based corporations benefiting off this. This is also a defense contractor, and they are also, making their money off of our war in quotes. All right, so we're going to go on to the next one. Raytheon Company. So Raytheon is a major U.S. defense contractor and industrial corporation with core manufacturing concentrations in weapons and military and commercial electronics. So we're going to look at the last 6 months. So as you see in 2019's last quarter, they were kind of low, and then as there was a buildup to January 3rd. And then when we look at the last 5 days, like there's a very, very clear spike in stocks after after news broke that we killed the bad guy. Sorry, I have a really hard time saying that with like a straight face, because I mean it's very clearly propaganda. It's very clearly a rehashing of all the other wars that we've done before. Wars, I'll put that in quotes again, just to make sure you're on the same page with me. But it's just such bullshit. Like it's not like there's just like this weird cognitive dissonance, and I've seen a lot of my liberal friends be like, oh no, this bad guy, like they're just like buying into it. And I mean, of course, the people on the far right, like they're butt deep in it, right? So it's been really interesting watching some of my more liberal centrist friends figuring out what's going on with this war, what's next, what does that mean for us? And then over to the left, like all my leftist friends, including myself, we're like having like a mental breakdown, because it's it's just another profiteer scam. Like it's just another profiting scam. Like that's all it is. I still have some more people who are profiting, like whose stocks clearly shot up. So here we go. Oops, not that one. And Northrop Grumman. So if you guys aren't familiar with Northrop Grumman Corporation is an American global aerospace and defense technology company with over 85,000 employees and an annual revenue in excess of $30 billion. How much you want to bet they're not taxed? It's one of the world's largest weapons manufacturer and military technology providers. So let's look at the last 6 months. The last 6 months and the last quarter, they were very jumbled. So very volatile. Volatile is the word I'm looking for. And then they were very, very low, and then boom, it sprang up. Let's look at the last 5 days. So in January, so let's look at January 2nd. Their stock was $375, and then it bumped up to $374. That doesn't seem like a big jump, but if you look at their lowest from December, it was like $347. Now with stocks are weird. Stocks are like gambling, more or less. So there are like small increments where it's like, well, Sam, it only went up $5. Wow, that was a big stock increase. It's like, well, you have to keep in mind how many stocks they have, right? So if you have 100 stocks and it goes up $5, right? So then you have that much extra. If you have like 20,000 stocks and each of them go up $5, then you have that much more profit. So we're looking at one stock, but you have to keep in mind that the ruling class, the elites who own stock, and the companies that own this stock, it's multiple stocks. It's a shit ton of stocks. So it doesn't seem like a big deal that it's going up from like, $3, $4, $5, $10. The $100 ones like Lockheed Martin, that was kind of, crazy. But you have to keep that in mind, right? So, okay, so we have one more war profiteer, and then I'm going to go to the YouTube chat to see what's up. The last war profiteer is General Dynamics. General Dynamics Corporation is an American aerospace and defense corporation. As of 2019, it was the 5th largest defense contractor in the United States and the 6th largest in the world by sales. The company ranked number 92 in the 2019 Fortune 500 list of the largest United States corporations by total revenue. Duh. So here's the last 6 months. Actually, this one's pretty interesting because, in the last 6 months, their stock was doing pretty well. It kind of nosedived in November, did well in January, and then did well in December, and then kind of leveled out in January. But regardless of that, if you do a microcosm on like the last 5 days, we have December 30th, 31st, January 2nd, 1st, 2nd. There is a very clear jump from December to January. So what does all of this mean? I kind of went in and explained here and there about like stocks and what it even though it jumps $5, that it's still a big deal because, all the stocks. But what does it mean in terms of us? In terms of us as, United States citizens and people, I won't use the word citizens because there's people here who are trying to be American or like trying to be part of this country, and like it's not, that's like a whole other immigration issue thing. But so what it means to us is that basically they're profiting off our suffering. Who's going to be sent to war? Right? Who is going to be at the front lines of this? It's not going to be the top 1%. It's not going to be the top 1%'s kids. It's not going to be the top 5. It's not going to be the top 10%'s kids or them. It's going to be the bottom 99%. And more specifically, it's going to be the children of those who are in poverty. Why? Because families who are in poverty lack access to healthcare, lack access to education, lack access to, paychecks, right? So our military industrial complex has set things up in a manner that's like, okay, you can't afford healthcare, you can't afford education. You don't really know what to do for a living. So if you come join us, we'll give you a paycheck. It really, it's like sort of an entrapment for 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And then on top of that, they raised the smoking age to 21. So, you have all of these, liberties, I put those in quotes again, on what you can have. And, when you turn 21, that's when you can smoke. That's when you can drink. But, you can start paying taxes at 16 and you can go die at 18 in a war that has nothing to do with anything. All it has to do with is a bottom line. That's all it has to do with. I'm going to go over to the YouTube chat and see how you guys are doing. Beep, 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 beep. Hey, Lawrence Johnson, $5 super chat. No war with Iran. I am totally about that. Thank you for the super chat. And again, no war with Iran. And if you want to follow the conversations on what's happening with and around Iran, just do hashtag no war with Iran. You can do that on Twitter. You can do that on Instagram. You can do that on Facebook. I highly recommend it on Twitter because that's where a lot more of like the journalists and political stuff is. But you can find some really dank memes using that on Instagram if you want to look at the memes. The memes that have come out of this have been amazing, because, like, I don't know. At some point, I'm going to have to do a little bit of a segment on memes and how memes capture what's going on and help us digest what's going on. It's academically amazing. And I'm a nerd. So, you know. Okay, anyway, I'm back over here in the YouTube chat. So someone asked me to introduce myself. My name is Sam Oser. I've been reporting with Jordan and Jen on and off for the last couple of years. I was on status quo. Last year I took a break because I got a new job, I bought a house, and there were so many things in my life happening. But, you know, I'm back and I'm trying to be more consistent Saturdays at 1 p.m. CST. You can follow me at Sam the Mullet. That handle is viable on any social media platform, including Snapchat, at Sam the Mullet. Mullet, business in the front, party in the back is exactly what it sounds like. Going through the YouTube chat. The neoliberals and right-wing hawks just don't get it because they support war crimes, which is pathetic because they're no different than a serial killer. No, they're really not. And but you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I have that in quotes. I'm trying to be sarcastic. It doesn't matter that they're no different than a serial killer because we're going after Black and brown people, right? So you have to remember the United States is a country of white supremacy. Not just our politicians, not just our police, but like the system, like our capitalism was built on white supremacy. And like the thing is, if you look at our constitution way back fucking when could have given women the right to vote and could have abolished slavery. But it says a lot that our founding structural document of the United States did not abolish slavery. So anyway, not red, blue. The only war we want is a class war. Yes, I agree. Hello, Sam. Nerds rock. Thank you. Nice to meet you, National. Okay, cool. So we're good in the YouTube chat. I'm happy to introduce myself, and so I'm gonna take a quick sip of tea. I'm drinking green tea jasmine this morning, and it is delicious. Okay. On to the next thing. So we're gonna still talk about stock because, you know, with every war that the U.S. is in, why do we go there, right? It's not just to profit for our war profiteers. There's something there that we want. So the thing that we want there is their oil. So I'm going to show you, where is it? There it is. So AP posted this on November 10th, 2019. Iran discovers new oil field with over 50 billion barrels. Wow. Iran has discovered a new oil field in the country's south with over 50 billion barrels of crude, its president said Sunday, back in November, a find that could boost the country's proven reserves by a third as it struggles to sell energy abroad over U.S. sanctions. Oh yeah, we tried to cripple Iran with U.S. sanctions. I mean, in case you missed that at any point. The announcement by Hassan Rouhani, I'm so sorry, comes as Iran faces crushing American sanctions after the U.S. pulled out of its nuclear deal with world powers last year. Rouhani made the announcement in a speech in the desert city of Yazd. Sorry, again. He said the field was located in Iran's southern Khuzestan province, home to its crucial oil industry. Some 53 billion barrels would be added to Iran's proven reserves of roughly 150 billion, he said. I'm telling the White House that in the days when you sanctioned the sale of Iranian oil and pressured our nation, the country's dear workers and engineers were able to discover 53 billion barrels of oil in a big field. Oil reserves refer to crude that's economically feasible to extract. Yeah. So, I mean, you can continue reading the rest of that article. It's on AP. But there's the stuff at the beginning. This was from November. So let's see. Was that the beginning of November? That was November 10th. All right. So November, December, January. Not even 3 months later. Not even 3 months later. Wow. The audacity. Well, rather the caucasity. Like truly, the corporate greed, the corporate Cassidy. Like, not even 3 months later, and here we are. So, with that said, with the oil, we're going to go look at the stocks of Exxon, Shell, Conoco, and Chevron. Are you ready for this? I'm not, but here we go. All right. So, ExxonMobil Corporation. Let's look at the last 6 months. So, at the last 6 months, their last quarter was actually pretty good. Their September 2019 Q4 was pretty decent. And it kind of went down in December. And now let's take a look at the last 5 days. So, in December, particularly December 31st, it plummeted, like it went down. But then, boom, as soon as the news broke, it went back up. Now, again, this is one of those things where it didn't go up by much. It only went up by $1, but you have to keep in mind that they have a lot of stock. Well, these people have a lot of stock, right? So it doesn't look like much, but there's a lot of stock. So $1 times, 1,000 stocks is 1,000 extra profit. And it, it even went up a little bit more. So anyway, just wanted to remind you of that. Okay, so next is Shell. So we're going to look at the last 6 months. Last 6 months, their quarter was pretty good. Their last quarter. It went down in September, went up, down. But let's look at the last 5 days when the news broke. Shell. Yep. Okay, and see, what's important thing to know about Shell. Shell is a British-Dutch oil and gas company headquartered in the Netherlands and incorporated in the United Kingdom. Okay, so again, Exxon is American, Shell is global, is incorporated in the United Kingdom. Just like we saw with the war profiteers, I want to point out again that it's not just U.S. corporations profiting. There's also global corporations profiting, right? Because it's not just United States capitalism. It's also global capitalism. Like, we have to keep these things in mind, especially when we're talking about global conflict. There's so much of the world that's immediately connected to us, right? And it's because the top 1%, the ruling class, the elite, the bourgeoisie, whatever you want to call them, has created this structure, right? Because it's not enough to have it in the US. They want a lot of money everywhere. Okay. All right, so next one. ConocoPhillips. So Conoco is an American company. Let's look at their last 6 months. Last 6 months, they took a nosedive in the last quarter in September. Then they kind of went back up in October, did decent in November. And then from November to January, you can see a steady increase. And then let's look at the last 5 days. So this one's really funny because, in December, they're pretty low. December 31st, they hit their lowest point in their stock, and then it just keeps going. And then literally the day the news broke, there was a huge spike. But then in like the shortly after, like it decreased. But the day the news broke, it spiked. Next up is Chevron. Chevron is an American corporation. 6 months. Here we see 6 months. It was very crazy in the last quarter. We can see that August was pretty high. It kind of dipped in September, went back up in October, dipped again, went back up, and, as stocks do. But here's the last 5 days of stocks with all of that. And then, boom, it peaked the day the news broke. Why? Because Iran discovers new oil field with over 50 billion barrels back in November. And the day we announced, we announced going to war with them, that's when it, went back up again. And I just want to remind you guys that this war is another illegal war. There's no congressional approval. There's nothing, right? It was just like a flick of a wrist type of deal. There's no congressional approval. It's another illegal war. Yeah. So before I go into the next portion of our segment, which is like, what can we do? What's happening? So, we saw these problems. We know the propaganda. We see the stocks. We see how, the ruling class is making bank off this war yet again from weapons manufacturing and oil. And like stocks don't mean jack shit to the rest of us, right? Like, do stocks put food on your table? Do stocks pay your bills? Do stocks do anything for you? No. I mean, unless you invest in stocks, like you're an everyday person who happens to do day trading or has an index universal fund or has a Roth IRA or has knowledge in stocks. But see, even knowledge in stocks is it's a class thing, right? So there's certain things that different levels of class know, right? So for example, I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but there was the Bill Gates adorably tries to predict or tries to figure out how much a thing of Totitos cost. It's not adorable, right? So he is so detached from reality that he doesn't know how much a box of Totino's pizza costs or how much a gallon of milk costs. So that's like some basic class knowledge, but then like class knowledge for like us proletariat is not knowing how stocks work, right? Not knowing how to even purchase a stock, not knowing what a Roth IRA is, not knowing what an index universal fund is. This is class knowledge, right? And this is class knowledge that they purposefully retain from us. Because, I mean, if we had that knowledge, it would be in our public schools instead of standardized testing. All right, which I have so much on standardized testing and education. That's probably like one of my favorite topics to talk about, the privatization of education. But I won't go into that rant today. I need to pace myself out. But I'm going to go back to the YouTube chat and see how you guys are doing. And then I'm going to go and talk about actions and what's next with this Iran stuff. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, thanks, Jordan. So Jordan did a, what's it called? Super chat for $10. Yes, Status Q does have multiple correspondents. The other correspondent is Marcus Ely. He's actually covering Bernie in Iowa right now. He does a lot of stuff as well. Australia is on fire. It is true. It is true. Australia is on fire. Australia, Brazil is burning. Yes. Julian Assange is in British hell. He is. He is in British hell. Lennon and Marx hated them. Let's see. Okay. So not really seeing anything that I can like do stuff with. But for those of you guys who like just joined or don't know what's going on, like who is this chick and why she's taking over Jordan's stream, my name is Sam Oser. You can follow me on any social media platform. My handle is Sam the Mullet. Mullet, business in the front, party in the back. I have a Facebook page, Snapchat, Twitter. I will say I'm my most active on Instagram. And Facebook. Twitter, I mostly repost things, and Snapchat, I'm still trying to like do, like, but it's there. So thanks, Alex, for the super chat. And another thing that's going on here is I'm live streaming also with All Real Radio. All Real Radio is a podcast studio out of Third Ward, Houston. And they have an app, allrealradio.com. So that's another way to tune in, not just to me, but to other shows in the Houston area. And then for those of you listening on All Real Radio, the show I'm on is Status Quo. I love introducing like the two platforms to each other. Status Quo is a progressive news media outlet. We've been around for like 2 years now, ish. Yeah. So it's really nice to just be here and talking about things and doing the thing. Okay. So next up, is this my first live stream for Status Quo? No, it's not my first live stream. You can go on youtube.com/status quo, go to playlists and find Sam Oser Reports, and you'll see a whole bunch of videos there. So there we go. This is actually one of the few streams where my sound is actually good. Like there's not a hissing sound. There's not like a weird frequency sound. I think I finally got it nailed down and it makes me feel good. Okay, so what's next? So after this whole Iran stuff, especially like the propaganda and, you know, seeing the stocks, it's very deflating, right? It's like, well, who am I and what do I even do about it? What can I even do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. I get imposter syndrome real bad. So I feel this in my bones. But I'm going to show you some things that are happening and what you can do and how you can use social media to figure out what, okay? So Sanders to introduce legislation blocking Iran war funding. So this is coming directly from Bernie's website. It's a press release. But Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Ro Khanna have announced legislation to prohibit any funding for offensive military force in or against Iran without prior congressional authorization. In a statement, Sanders and Khanna said war with Iran could cost countless lives and trillions more dollars and lead to even more deaths. Today, we are seeing a dangerous escalation that brings us closer to another disastrous war in the Middle East. After authorizing a disastrous $738 billion military budget that was placed no restrictions on this president from starting an unauthorized war, Congress now has an opportunity to change course. Our legislation blocks Pentagon funding for any unilateral actions this president takes to wage war against Iran without congressional authorization. We know that it will ultimately be the children of working class families who will have to fight and die in the Middle East conflict, not the children of the billionaire or millionaire class, I'd like to note. At a time when we face the urgent need to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure to build the housing we desperately need, blah, blah, blah. So in case you guys missed it, Congress actually gave Trump a war budget not too long ago. And I just don't want to lump them all together. I want you to specifically know that Democrats also voted in favor of this war budget, right? So on one hand, they're like, oh, Trump, he's a monster. But then on the other hand, they're like, you know what? We're going to give this dude all the money he wants. So I just want you to know that, because because that's just what it is. Sorry, right now I'm plugging in some more time in here before it gets away from me. Um, so that happened. The Democrats are like, Trump, no. Oh well, here's a war budget. So what Bernie and Rep. Ro Khanna are essentially trying to do is block that funding from actually happening. And again, this war doesn't actually have congressional authorization. It has none. It has absolutely zilch. So that's what's happening, and something that you can do to like help this legislation out is call your reps. If you don't know who your rep is, look it up on Google. Type in the Google, who is my rep? And then some links will pop up to try to help you find your rep. And then once you find your rep, you should start calling them. You should tell them to, like, kiss your butt. Don't vote for this. No, vote for legislation. Vote for the legislation. Don't vote for us going to war. It's that simple on what you can do. So another thing that you can do, I found this, I didn't find this. Well, one of my Facebook friends, Kathy, gave this to me. And I thought it was a really, really cool kit. Code Pink, if you guys don't follow Code Pink, you should. Global Peace Activist Toolkit. Join or host a rally. Nationwide rallies. Actually, I haven't opened that link. So here's a whole bunch of stuff on the rallies, posters that if you're having a hard time coming up with stuff to put on posters. Here's social media graphics that you can share. Here's sample tweets, talking points, chants, petitions, get supporters to sign up, action photos, visit Congress. So this is a really good tool. I'm going to stick this in the YouTube chat for you guys. For you guys to use, because I understand that looking at all of this, it's very debilitating. It's like, well, what do I even do? Well, there's a little activist toolkit to help you with the protests and whatnot. Now, protests are good to get like media attention and to like try to put pressure, but sorry, drinking tea. But it's a lot more long term than that, right? So protests only go so far, especially like permitted protests. I understand, having protests with permits is important because, the police are already trying to kill you anyway, especially if you're a Black person. And if you're having a protest and it has permits, then, if they do try to kill you, you can like it's permits. It's like an extra protection. But if you're protesting without a permit, it leaves you that much more vulnerable, especially as a Black or brown person. But the protests are, this is just kind of a spurt in like the longer timeline, right? So what can you do for more long term, right? So an idea is to call your rep. Keep having a conversation with your rep. Another idea is to figure out how to get involved locally, right? We're all doing a grassroots thing. And the thing about the revolution is like you can fit anywhere. If you don't have time and you can do postcards, like their postcards party, you can do that. If you have time and want to join like your local DSA chapter or want to join like your local Democratic Party, you can do that. You can become a precinct chair. And do resolutions and things like that. There's a lot of things that you can do locally that may not directly impact like against Iran protests, but again, it's like a long-term strategy, right? So those are stuff with the protests. As you guys saw, Jordan did a live stream in New York with protests going on there. There's protests going on in Washington. There's protests going on everywhere, which is really good because it's bringing media attention. But then, after the protests, it's like well, now what? So I'm going to show you guys some local protests happening in my area, which is Houston. So tomorrow there's no war on Iran from 2 to 4 p.m. off Westheimer. There's also my local DSA, Houston DSA, is doing a rally tomorrow at 3 p.m. at Discovery Green. And they're also having a party, like a sign making party. Can't make it to the rally but want to be involved. You go there and signs, posters, slogans, making event. So it's a good way to connect with everybody. So for those of you who are not in New York, not in Washington, or not in Houston, how do you find rallies and things? So it's actually very simple. Social media is the best tool for it. If you don't have social media, I'm sorry, but I think you need to get it, especially like Facebook, because that's where they post a lot of events. Trust me, I do not want to be on social media. I don't want to be on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. Social media is very debilitating for my mental health. But it's a tool, right? The ruling class and corporations are actively oppressing social media, as we've seen on Status Quo with our YouTube channel. And, the things that Facebook decides to censor and the things they decide to keep is completely arbitrary and annoying. But regardless of that, social media is a tool to connect to people. So the easiest thing you can do, truly the easiest thing you can do, is use that Facebook search tool. Go to, hashtag no war with Iran. Find groups, join them. That's the best thing you can do. So, we were talking about calling your reps and telling them that they need to vote for Bernie's legislation. They need to fight the Iran war, say no to it. But an important aspect of calling your rep is knowing who funds them, right? So we're just going to assume that across the board that they're all funded by the corporate class, corporate billionaire, millionaire class. But I kind of wanted to do an engaging thing with you guys where you guys tell me who your rep is, and I pull them up on Open Secrets and we look at their donors and whatnot. This is really fun for me. It's fun for me, but it's also kind of sad because it's just like, wow, life sucks and then you die. But I also want to show you guys how to use the tool, right? And I plan on doing this hopefully every show to show you guys, because there's so many reps, right? So I'm gonna go open Secrets, and then I'll be in the YouTube chat in just a second. Whoa, what's happening? So I went to type it in and it gave me a completely different website. Weird. Okay, so I'm gonna come over to the YouTube. All right, do we have any reps that we want to see who is corporate? Now remember, this is kind of in line with, calling your rep about Iran, calling your rep about Medicare for all. This is a good way to see if your rep is funded by anybody. Beep, 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 beep. I don't see anybody yet, but I know you guys will do it, man. Okay, well, since you guys aren't putting anything in, I'm going to start with, let's start with Sheila Jackson Lee. Let me show you guys my screen. So It's very simple. You go to opensecrets.org, you type in who you want to see, and then you click there. And you see the elections, industries, PACs, contributors. So let's go over to industries. Campaign and committee and leadership combined. So we see healthcare, we see industrial unions, we see lawyers, firms, real estate, gun control, leadership PACs. Let's do Mitch McConnell. He's gross. So let's look at industries. Let's combine it. Beep, beep, beep. Let's do 2018. So we see securities investment, insurance, real estate, retired, pharmaceuticals, lobbyists. Now, if we do it by contributors, you can see the top contributors: Blackstone Group, Altria Group, Goldman Sachs, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Elliott Management, NORPAC, Kindred Healthcare. So let's see if you guys have put any in the chat. Oops, sorry, I was going too fast, y'all. I am looking to see if you guys have put anything. Bob Casey from Pennsylvania. Thank you. So let's look up Bob Casey. Senator Bob Casey. Let me close out some of these browsers. It's kind of overwhelming. So here we are, Bob Casey, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania. Top contributors from 2015 to 2020, University of Pennsylvania, Blank Rome, University of Pittsburgh. Ooh, Comcast is in there. Let's look at industries. Campaign. Let's look at 2018, since 2020 is like way, very new. Bob Casey is a top recipient from the following industries: cable and satellite, construction services, dentists, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, chemicals, insurance, foreign policy. That's interesting. Foreign and defense policy top recipients. Interesting. So our friend here, Bob Casey, Democrat from Pennsylvania, in 2018's election cycle, was one of the top 20 senators. He got over $35,000 from foreign and defense policy. Let's put 2020 and see how that looks. In 2020, it doesn't look like he's there. But here's all of the other foreign and defense policy top recipients. Chris, Michael, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey, Jeff, Tina, Kamala. And see, like 2020's election cycle isn't over yet, right? So this is still not necessarily a great a snapshot. Like, it's a decent snapshot, but 2018, it's a lot bigger. So there are some familiar names in the foreign and defense policy. So these are people who were more likely, not be in favor of Bernie's legislation. So we're going to go back over here to Bob Casey and look at his top contributors for 2018 campaign committee and leadership PAC combined. And it's the same: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Exelon Corp, University of Pittsburgh, So there we are. And this is a perfect place to dig in more on like, well, who is that? What are they doing? You can always click on, like once you do some more of the research, you can click on who's who, where. So let's see. You guys want to do Lindsey Graham next? Let's do that. Lindsey Graham. Oh, apparently I do not know how to spell. Ugh. So here we are. Lindsey Graham is a senator. He's a Republican from South Carolina. So we're going to look at top contributors for 2018 because that provides a nice big picture because 2020's election cycle is still very, it's not complete. 2018's election cycle is complete. So top contributors, we see General Electric, Lockheed Martin, McAndrews Forbes, Boeing. So we see, there's Northrop. We were just talking about them. McAndrews and Forbes. There's Raytheon, Morgan Stanley. So here's the interesting thing about some of these war profiteer corporations. I want to show you that Open Secrets has a thing where it shows you how much they've given to Dems and how much they've given to Republicans. So right now we're looking at Raytheon in the 2018 election cycle. And for Democrats, Raytheon gave Democrats $928,180. Republicans were given over $1 million, $190,108. So let's look what Raytheon did in 2020. So far, it's interesting. Raytheon has given just about as much to Democrats as they've given to Republicans. So that's really important to note whenever you're working on calling your representative. You should, whenever you call your representative, to talk about Iran, to talk about Medicare for all, whatnot, you should look at Open Secrets and see where they're getting money from, just to kind of help you when you call them. So I'm going to show you the other ones too. So let's look at Northrop Grumman. So Northrop Grumman, another war profiteer that's profiting off this Iran nonsense, has given just about the same to Democrats as they have Republicans. Democrats for 2018 received $1,468,000. Republicans received $1,786,000. Let's see what 2020 looks like. Oh, 2020 is interesting. Democrats and Republicans, again, have received the same amount, but Democrats have received slightly more than Republicans from Northrop Grumman. So just important things to keep in mind. So we were looking at Lindsey Graham, and then I kind of took you down this rabbit hole. All right, let's do one more. Well, see, Kamala's not really in the race anymore. Maybe let's do Amy Klobuchar since she's still. Warren. That's fun. Let's do Warren because I mean Warren's doing more, like doing better in the polls than Amy Klobuchar. So let's look at Elizabeth Warren. See how I just typed her name into opensecrets.org. There's the site search. So we're going to do her time as senator. Let's go to contributors. And we're going to do 2018 because that's a complete election cycle. Campaign committee and leadership PAC combined. Whew, okay. So we're going to go down. Look, there's Harvard, Emily's List, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Nuance Communications, Boston University. There's a lot of universities in there. Alphabet Inc. What is that? If I remember right, I think Alphabet Inc. is a education thing, like one of those privatization. It's a privatization. Alphabet Inc. is an American multinational conglomerate headquartered in Mountain View, California. Oh, it's the parent company of Google and several formal Google subsidiaries. Interesting. So Apple Inc. has given to Elizabeth Warren, and they are a multinational conglomerate company. That's not scary at all. There's AT&T. So I don't see anything in like her top 20 for, let's look at 2020's election cycle. Emily's List, University of California, Massachusetts, there's AT&T. Ooh, there's Alphabet Inc. again. Eek. There's healthcare. A lot of it's universities, which is interesting. Morgan Stanley. Let's look to see how much Morgan Stanley has given to Republicans and Democrats. So Morgan Stanley in the 2020 election cycle, they're a financial institution, stocks. They've given $463,000 to Dems and $315,000 to Republicans. It's interesting. And let's go over to industries for Warren. Campaign 18, because 18 is a whole cycle. Retired. See, so the thing about retired always gets me. Let me explain retired. Okay, so I did this thing about 2 years ago. I need to redo it because we have a new city council. But for Houston, I did a corporate tentacle map of city council. And when I was going through the fundraising stuff, through the campaign finance reports, I noticed a lot of people put retired. But when I looked up their name, they were very clearly not retired. They owned a business. They owned a contracting business. Sometimes they misspelled their name and put retired, or they would just put their initials and retired. So you have to be careful with retired because it looks like on paper, it looks like that they're, retired, right? But whenever you get down to it and you look at their names, they're not usually retired. So I just want to heads up about that. I guess some point I'll have to go through Elizabeth Warren's retired list and see who's who. That would be fun. I won't do that with you guys because then I'll, that's a lot. And let's look at her 2020 top industries. Book, newspaper, environment, nonprofits, health services, defense aerospace. What? Defense aerospace top recipients. That's interesting. Yeah. So in defense aerospace top recipients, now it could be like this doesn't provide whether it was like corporations or actual workers, but Sanders isn't the first one. And then Warren is 5 in this one. And then we have John Cornyn, we have Mitch McConnell, we have Kamala Harris down there. That's fun. And yeah. So that's how you use Open Secrets, and that's how you look to see who's who. And again, the reason why I'm showing you this is because a lot of people don't even know this exists, first of all, and second of all, whenever you're calling your reps about no war with Iran, no Medicare for all, Green New Deal, it helps to just kind of have a basic understanding of what their campaign contributions look like before you call them, right? Because it just helps, especially like if you set up a meeting with them. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that. When I was doing only activism work and not journalism, I would try to set up meetings with the state representatives. It was a lot easier than federal representatives. And with the state representatives, you sit there and basically go over why they're not voting right, or tell them to vote how you want to. And you basically set up like an argument of like, here's, if you vote in favor of this, here are the repercussions. And also, I see that these corporate interests have given you money, so it's kind of a conflict of interest if you vote in favor of this. It's just things like that just help. So I'm going to wrap up this stream today by checking in on the YouTube, see you guys are doing. Thank you for the super chat. I do plan on actually showing you guys more research tools as I go on with streams, not today, but streams in the future, showing you how to use tools and figuring out. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, like Jordan, Jen, Marcus, and I, we can't do all of it. But the best that I can do is give you the tools you need to help you fill in some of the blanks. Thanks for the website. No, apparently my congressman has a few scandals. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I really have for today. So I'm going to end with our checklist. Don't forget to like this live stream, become a member of Status Coup, follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat with the handle Sam the Mullet, business in the front, party in the back. You can subscribe to the Status Coup podcast and join our email list, statuscoup.com. And then for text alerts, text coup, COUP, to 474747. When you text coup to 474747, you'll get breaking news text alerts and live notifications. So that's all I really have for you guys. So I hope you guys have a good one, and by God, I'm going to try to be back on next Saturday. I'm trying to be more consistent. Anyway, you guys have a good one.